welcome to Two Boomer Women. I'm your host, Agnes Knowles. I've been talking with Boomer women for almost a decade now. Well, I guess I've been talking to Boomer women all my adult life. Reinventing myself several times along the way, though, but always focused on us, Boomer women. With this incarnation of Two Boomer Women, I'll be interviewing other women who have a message of interest for our demographic. If you want to hear about or learn about something specific, let me know and I'll find someone who understands us to talk about it. There's a contact page at twoboomerwomen.com. If you want to be a guest on Two Boomer Women, bring it on. There's an application form at the website too. Finally, this show is all about conversation. We women know its value. We know how to do it, and we must perpetuate the art form. So let's get started with today's show. Welcome to the Two Boomer Women podcast. I'm your host, Agnes Knowles. I will never, ever run a marathon, let alone the Boston Marathon. My only claim to fame around the Boston Marathon is having a brother who knows a lovely woman who did come first in her age category in 2019, but somehow that won't put me on the podium. My guest today, though, is both a Boston Marathoner and an Iron woman. She's not here to encourage you to become a marathoner, however. Although she may inspire you to become an athlete, maybe more athletic. How does that sound? Jennifer's story begins in 2010 when she was training for the Chicago Marathon. She can probably tell that story better than I can, so let me introduce her. Jennifer Conroyd, welcome to the Two Boomer Women podcast.
Hi, Agnes. Thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here with you.
Well, I'm looking forward to this. Jennifer, Chicago, 2010. Yeah. Tell our listeners the story, please.
Okay, so it's kind of, it's the story of how fluid running began. But as you mentioned, I'm a marathoner. I believe I've done 16 marathons. But in 2010, I believe it might have been a marathon number 10. I can't remember the number, but I always say it was the most important marathon I had run or was planning to run at the time, because my entire family was coming in to do it with me. And we're spread out 5 siblings from California to Maine, literally every one of us in a different state. And everyone was coming in to run it with me. And we were part of a charity team for Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation in honor of my nephew, Ben, who had been diagnosed at a very young age. So it was the year 2010. Our team name was Team 10-10-10, because that was the date of the marathon, October 10, 2010. His name was Ben, so our team name was 10-10-10 for Ben. And 6 weeks before, when I got injured, we had already raised $10,000. I was team captain. Everyone was coming into Chicago, obviously. And 6 weeks before, I tore my calf muscle. And having run about 10 marathons at that point, I know the minor injuries and the bad injuries. And in that moment, I knew I had done something, to really hurt myself. And, sure enough, went to the doctor and he said, Jennifer, you can't run. You can't. You have a tear. It was a mild tear, but it was a tear that he said, if you keep running, it's only going to keep getting worse. And I said, no, you don't understand. I have to run this marathon. So I do what, a lot of us do when you're searching for an answer. And I went onto the internet, and I'll never forget, my Google search just said, how do you stay in running shape when you can't run? And I came across all sorts of things, but I kept being drawn to articles on, it was either termed aqua jogging, the very common term, or water running, pool running, Deepwater running. And I kept getting drawn to that. And I finally came across this particular article that said how to stay in running shape. It was a 6-week plan. But I looked at like how long the runs were, and they weren't marathon long kind of runs. So I ended up reaching out to the author and I said, is there any way I could talk to you? I said, I only have 6 weeks. It was a 9-week plan. It was a 9-week plan. I said, I only have 6 weeks and I need to run a marathon. So he reached back out to me and said, I have someone that can help you out. He put me in touch with a coach and who said, Jennifer, I promise I'll get you to this marathon in the water. So he gave me my running workouts. They're very similar to what you would do on land, but in the water. It was all heart rate based. I even say I did my 20 miler in the water, which meant keeping my heart rate at the time at about 140 for 3 hours, as part of this plan. But I had not run for 6 weeks. And I always say if there's any runners out there, if you miss 3 days, you start to panic, let alone 6 weeks of not running. So I got to the start line and it was kind of like one of those like, so help me God if this works. And not only did it work, but I finished the marathon strong. Not only did I finish it, but I qualified for the Boston Marathon. Even on that particular marathon, it was a hot day and I hadn't run in 6 weeks. And I say it truly was that light bulb aha moment when I crossed the finish line. I was like, oh my gosh, like, why isn't every injured runner doing this? And I just started thinking, like, the applications, like, here I was, like limping. I was limping, right? I couldn't do an elliptical, that hurt my calf. I couldn't ride a bike, that hurt my calf. I'm limping around, yet I was able to stay not just in, peak physical shape, not just marathon running shape, but Boston Marathon running shape without running on land. So that was I need to do this with my life somehow. So that was the beginning.
That's crazy. So calf muscle, how long would it have taken you to become competition ready, given the other modalities that were being used?
That's a good question, because I could talk for hours about all the benefits of deep water running, but that's one of the huge benefits, is that when you're in the water, in the the deep water, meaning, where you can't touch the bottom, it doesn't need to be 20 feet just so you don't touch the bottom, but the depth of that water, even, the depth of your legs, say it's 5 feet below the surface, there's a lot of pressure, right? And now you're running in the water, you're moving your leg back and forth in the running motion, and you've got this water pressure on your legs. And as your legs are moving back and forth, you're kicking up all this, like kind of turbulence of the water, which is kicking up all the circulation in your legs. So it has this immense healing benefit. So all the time I was doing my running, I was actually speeding up the healing of my calf. So it's kind of incredible that while I was working out, I was actually speeding up the recovery of my calf tear. So, it might have healed in 6 weeks by resting it. But I think I probably healed it even quicker, to be honest with you, because of all the benefits of the deep water and the pressure and the.
So normally, would it have been recommended that you rest for several weeks and then just physio or whatever carefully?
Yep. I wasn't like crutches, but it was like, you need to rest this. You can't continue to strain this muscle like that and put pressure on it. And certainly no running. So it was very effective, to say the least.
Yeah, sounds like it, Jeepers. I used to be really, really fit, and I have had not that injury, but injuries, and you just go like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So you told us a little bit about Deepwater Running.
Yeah.
So can you tell us more? I saw a belt.
Okay. So, so let me just back up just to kind of how I got there. So then, I did this and I was like, well, how do I want to do this with my life? How do I want to teach it. I want to train it. So I ended up, I talked to my coach and I said, how do I become certified? And he said, well, it's very popular in Canada, water running, and it's popular in, Australia. So I ended up going to Canada a couple of times to get my certification. Okay. And then I came back and I started teaching it. But what's required to just do aqua jogging, deep water running, the only thing you actually need is a flotation belt. And I say that because, and a lot of people, and especially like runners, will say, oh, I don't need a belt. I can do it without it. It's harder without it. I'm like, well, yeah, it's harder, but you can't hold form. You can't hold like running form, I say, without that flotation belt. And people will often ask, is that a weight belt? I'm like, nope, it's a flotation belt. So flotation belt holds you in that upright position to allow you to do proper, as I call it, proper running form, like mimicking just like you run on land. Because without that belt, that forward and backward motion isn't going to keep you up. You're going to start kind of pushing your hands out to the side, kicking your leg like the egg beater, kind of a treading water kind of a motion. Yeah. You'll just end it. I've tried it. Even I'm very fit. I can only do it for a couple of minutes and then I start kicking out sideways to keep myself afloat without a belt.
Okay. So the belt, does it fit right at your waist? Or because I've had those belts on before and they tend to slide up under your breast.
No, it's very snugly. As a matter of fact, in my instructional videos, when people buy the fluid running system, I say, I want you to almost be fighting to snap that buckle, because I want it so snug around your waist, because once you get in the water will get in there, seep in there. And inevitably, if it's not snug, it's going to ride up underneath your rib cage and, armpits. And then it's very uncomfortable. So snugly around your waist.
Holy crow. Okay. So I used to teach fitness, as I say. I know that water fitness done right and I think maybe we're jumping ahead now. So you started the business. Go back to the actual thing. I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead, but
that's okay. I probably jumped ahead.
Okay, let's jump back into the pool. So you've got a belt on, snug at the waist. Mm-hmm. I saw, I think you need an app. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the fluid running system, the full system includes if someone were to go to the website and order the fluid running system, the first thing they get is is a welcome, and they get a link that is instructional videos. And that part is so critical because the workouts in the fluid running system are audio only. The people get very confused by that. They think they're staring at their phone. I'm like, no, it's all audio. We've had tremendous success with it, but it's about 10 minutes of video that will be watched. I say ideal in your laptop just because it's a bigger video and it's me, but showing all of the proper form and movements. Like it's not as intuitive as it may sound. And most people, when they think of deep water running or aqua jogging, they have the wrong idea in their head, at least as far as I'm concerned. Like I said, I teach it to mimic land running form, and we'll talk more about that. You don't have to be a runner. So many of our customers are not runners, but I want you to, I said, everyone's a runner when you're fluid running. So the videos teach you how to get in that proper fluid running form. And there's cues like, I have them go through I call it our 5-step methodology, where I have everyone put their arms out to the side, form a T with their body, and then start in like a flutter kick, like if they got scuba fins and they drop their arms, hands in a gentle fist, head high, chin in, shoulders back, belly to spine, all of these cues to get them in the proper form. And I say things like, now I want you to imagine, there's a kickball and in front of you and you're kicking with your foot. Now you're trying to scrape something off the bottom of your shoe. And now you're kicking that kickball with your heel. Think of your foot as a paintbrush. There's all these cues that I go through very clearly. And then we have some other movements in the workouts, things like cross country, like the Nordic ski. Sometimes we'll break down and we'll say, just run with your arms, just run with your legs. But at any rate, so it's about 10 minutes of watching these videos, and the videos show both me demoing it on the pool deck. And then it also shows what it looks like under the water, so that when you get to the pool, then you link your phone to the app, and the app has all of the fluid running workouts. And I always say, please start with the introductory, because that introductory workout, so then you put in your Bluetooth, you get Bluetooth waterproof headphones come with your system. You pair it to your phone, you get to the pool, you pull up your app and you say, I'm going to do, take the long way home today. We have all these different names for our workouts, and you click that, you put your phone in your gym bag or towel. And then ideally start with the introductory workout, where I very clearly will remind the listeners, okay, remember from the video, remember how I showed you in that form, we're taking it to that run, remember, and kind of reminding them of what they saw in the videos. And because it is all audio, I cue, and we have new instructors now to cue throughout the entire workout, constantly cueing. Say, okay, we're taking it to long stride cross country. Remember, your arms are long, not locked. Legs are long, not locked. Feet are flexed. Scissors swing. So it's, a lot of cueing along with the sets and the intervals and the timing and heart rate checks and all that we do as part of the workouts.
So what I'm hearing then too is you're a runner, so that's sort of where your focus is. But if somebody's a cross-country skier or snowshoer, that sort of thing, they would just mimic those motions then and get equal gains?
I mean, it's a running base work. So it's a running base work. I mean, because obviously when I created it, I was running. But so the workouts are encouraged to follow what the coach is saying. Like when we're running. And I always say, like, everyone gets to be a runner in fluid running, because so many people say, I hate running. I was never born to run. But I always joke, I say, first of all, running is a natural instinct. Every single one of us ran on a playground, right? As a kid, right? So it's a very natural, but a lot of us, it always hurt. And certainly as we get older, it hurts. But when you're in the water, you're floating. So everyone can run. It's just that once we teach you how to do it, the video, anyone can do it. My 86-year-old mother does it. Anyone can do it. Literally, you're floating, barring physical disabilities and some other things like this, anybody can do it. So when the coach is saying running, ideally you're running, but then we'll transition to a cross country, and then we'll transition to a flutter kick, and then we'll transition to back to running. So it's not specific to like cross country skiers should do this or runners should do this. And we have got 15-year-olds to 90-year-olds, Olympic athletes to amputees. I mean, it's amazing our range of people that do this workout, and all sports. A lot of people are just really overweight, trying to lose weight. People suffering with lymphedema and cancer, you name it, they're our customer. So, and it's really not sports specific. I say it's running base is how it's created. And we do get a lot of runners that love it, and they love the fact that they get their run in, but it's truly for everybody.
Wow. So just because I do have a little bit of background with the fitness, I know that the two things that come to mind with any sort of fitness in the water is you've got all the water resistance, which is fabulous. Mm-hmm. And then it's non-impact.
Yes. Those are probably the biggest benefits of it, because you probably know this, water is 800 times denser than air. So as you are, whether you're running or doing cross country, you're moving against all of that resistance. So, and the faster you do it, the more you kick up that resistance. So it can be, depending, it's as hard or as easy as you want to make it. And that's what I love about fluid running. Again, we have Olympic athletes to 90-year-olds that have used our product. So that resistance, while you're doing it, if you're doing it fast, it makes it extraordinarily challenging. But I say it's like you're getting your cardio run or whatever workout along with your kind of resistance band workout. It's strength training at the same time. But, this product right now, and we are coming out with the shallow water, but this is, as it stands right now, fluid running, it is done the deep water where it's zero impact. Even some people often say, oh, I love that it's low impact. I'm like, no, you're floating. It's zero. There's zero impact. So it can be done with so many different, injuries, whether it's foot, ankle, knee, hip. We have a lot of people with back and spine that, and I had cervical surgery, I guess about 8 years ago. I remember thinking it was the only hour of the day I was not in pain was when I was in the deep water because, I'm floating. Yeah. So my spine was floating and my discs were floating. They weren't sitting on top of each other because I had a compressed disc, and it was amazing. I didn't want to get out. It was the only time it didn't hurt. So we get a lot of people with back, neck, you name it. And so many people that have told us that, it's the only thing they can do. It's the only exercise they can do that doesn't hurt. So it's very rewarding.
Before I pressed record, I mentioned that I just come from my seniors exercise class where I lead these women. Yeah. And talk about ideal, because I know I'm always coaching them saying, okay, this is what we're going to do. If you've had a hip replacement, if you've got, you can't just do as much as you can do or do it this way. Or, if you've had a knee injury, so you're always trying to give them those other alternatives and remind them not to work through pain when you're 85 years old.
Right.
So this sounds like, ideal.
Yeah.
Now the audience is boomers. As we become older, we have other issues, and it sounds like this is still ideal. Arthritis, all sorts of heart issues. You talk to those for the non-athlete.
Right. And again, honestly, I would say I'm going to go with 70% of our users are not athletes, and our demographic is women 55 plus is really who buys this product for the most part. And it's mainly, we get men too, but it's mostly women. And I say it's women who really want to work out. They want to work out, but darn it, if they even go for a long walk, they come back and their knee hurts, or so this allows them, again, the ability to work out without pain. But I can't even tell you how many people come with arthritis and knee pain. And again, a lot of people, they talk about being like bone on bone, right? But when you're in the water, again, I keep using that word floating, but you are, so you don't have anything pushing against each other. Yeah. We always say with any injury, any ailment, always get clearance from your doctor, of course. But what's nice too, I like about fluid running, because you're floating and you're never touching, you can modify. I love that too, as a runner or somebody. Like people sometimes say like, my right knee, hurts so much, and we've had people say even sometimes it hurts when doing fluid running. I'm like, okay, I'll say you're probably kicking out too hard on like the forward motion. I'm like really forward, try to focus on pushing forward more with your quad than that kick forward motion, things like that. And then I say the nice thing is you can do full force on one leg and like a more little gentle force on the other leg if that's the knee that hurts. And what's nice about that, because you're floating, you could never do that on land, right? You couldn't try to put more force on one. If you did, that's going to mess up everything else because we're all connected, right? Heart, of course, always ask for clearance with the doctor, but it's a really great heart workout, because when you're vertical in the deep water, you're like a tube of toothpaste and everything kind of gets squeezed upward. So you're actually pumping more blood out of your heart per beat, which strengthens your heart.
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting, because I do have ulterior motives. My brother will be 75 next month. Yeah. He's been a runner for as long as I can remember. Yeah. And he, I don't know, maybe in the last year has had some sort of a heart issue happening. Okay. And he cannot run in terms of those distances that he used to do and the speed that he used to do. And I actually was talking to him just recently, and he said, "Oh yeah, I can't talk right now." We were texting. I said, He said, "I can't talk right now. I meant some run." And I went, "You're running?" And he went sort of, I could hear the disgust because he's my brother. I could hear the disgust in his words going, well, I guess my version of it.
Yeah. Okay.
But,
right. Yeah. So you, not only are you pumping more blood per beat, but your heart rate is slower. So it's kind of, they call it it's like the perfect cardiac efficiency, more blood per beat at a lower heart rate, yet you're working. It's really interesting because, and I always have to explain that to the athletes because they'll get in and go, oh my gosh, my heart rate wasn't very high. I'm like, well, you have to understand that you're pumping out more blood and the heart just can't pump it out as fast as when you're running on land. So I use this example: when you're running on land, your heart's going boom, 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 boom. Same exertion in the water, because all this extra blood is being pumped out per beat. Your heart goes boom, boom. It just can't pump it out as fast. But that really is like the best efficiency of your heart, and it really strengthens your heart. So it's a great cardiac workout. But I always say, any heart issues, check with your doctor first. But
yeah, and I often clarify that too with my guests of like, this is great information, but you aren't a doctor, and you can't give advice anyways without knowing a person. So
correct.
But okay, now you've mentioned if someone's overweight, it's a good modality for bringing weight down while you also gain muscle, which increases your metabolism, etc.
So really great. And we've had, I have a success story. Well, several. We've had people lost. I've heard from 50 to 175 pounds doing fluid running. And I'll tell you why, especially for people that are really overweight, this is why it's so wonderful. Number one, obviously, if you have a lot of extra weight on your body, then you got a lot of extra weight on your joints, right? So number one, none of that. We're all kind of weightless in the water, which is wonderful. Number two, people that are overweight sometimes tend to overheat even more. But I say in the water, water temperature is generally 82, even if it's 84, that's 14 degrees below your body temperature. So it keeps your body nice and cool. You don't overheat. There's no, it's chafing. And the big plus is if running in water burns 40% more calories than running on land, which is crazy because you think of running on land as the ultimate weight loss cardio, right? But again, because you're running in the water, which is 800 times denser than air, you're working harder. You're using muscles that you don't use running on land. And I keep referring to running. And again, you don't have to be a runner. Most of our runners aren't, but it's kind of just a good to understand how great it is. You're using the way we teach it. It's the same biomechanical motion as if you were running on land. So your legs get a running workout, even if you're not a runner. You get the cardio workout, right? You also get though, and this is why it burns more calories, all that extra resistance, but you get an arm workout. The water hits you above your shoulder. So as your legs are going back and forth, but your arms are also swinging back and forth. So I often say when you're running on land, your arms are just swinging through air. They're not doing anything, but in the water, they're actually I've had people talk about how, their husbands have commented on how toned their arms look from doing fluid running, but your core also to stay in that upright position. You've got that flotation belt around your waist. It requires all of your core to be stabilized. Your abs have got to be tight. I always say, pull your shoulders back and your shoulder blades together, back and down. So all of your upper body core muscles they're all firing. I always say, sometimes we have live classes. I'll say, everyone, I just want you to completely relax. Like if you just relax, you'd flop forward, right? So to stay upright in the water like that, all of those core muscles are engaged. Your arms are working, your legs are working. So it's your whole body. So it burns 40% more calories than if you're running on land. You would have to be working at kind of the same intensity. And a lot of people, again, aren't runners. They don't know what that is. I always say, if you're running on land, call it a 70 to 75% effort level. Obviously 0's laying on the couch and 10's being chased by a cheetah, that 7 number where you're working. So I always say that feeling of okay, I'm working. You should be maybe a little bit breathy, but it's a pace. I always say it's a pace you could stay at for a long time, but you're still glad when I say, okay, jog it out, take a breath, take a break. So that's kind of the cues for helping people kind of understand. So you're not going to burn 40% more calories if you're just kind of, floating there or strolling along. If you're working at, say, that 70% effort level, you burn even more calories. So it's people talk about how they're starving after fluid running because it burns so many calories.
Well, you keep on emphasizing too that you don't need to be a runner, but on every able-bodied body out there, where are the large muscle groups? Yeah, it's the legs.
The legs.
And as you said at the very beginning, this running, walking motion is such a natural for the human body.
Yeah, a lot of glute work, but again, we do when you're running and we're doing that cross country Nordic, a lot of glute and quad and so.
Good. And then the other thing, just that you said something about chafing for heavier, overweight people, is the other part of that is if you're doing something on land as women, if you are overweight, chances are you have large breasts and the girls float.
Yep, for sure. For sure. Yeah. And this is something else. And I have heard this from people that are body conscious. Granted, you're in a bathing suit and that for some people makes them uncomfortable even, but once you're in the water, you're exercising and no one can see what you're doing. Nobody sees your body. There's no mirror, in the cycle studio where everyone can see so that's kind of a nice thing too. I've heard people, they like that nobody can actually see them, which is nice. Yeah.
This is totally unrelated, but a number of years ago, there's a local pool that whenever the older women had their morning swim, they would close all the curtains from the viewing area.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was lovely. They could go out there and everything that sags or droops,
right. Bounces, whatever, jiggles. Okay, now it doesn't matter, but we're all self-conscious, right?
Yeah, we really, and it doesn't seem to go away with age, unfortunately. Oh dear. Now on your website, I also saw tether. What is that?
Yeah. So that's part of the system. So the system again is, you get the link to the instructions, then you get all the instructions on how to download your app to the workouts. It comes with 4 workouts, the basic system, but then it also comes with the tether. I always say the tether is not necessary, but dang, people love that stinking tether. So the tether, I think of it like a little bungee cord. It's about maybe 6 feet, 5 feet. And how it works is it slips behind your flotation belt has a black strap that buckles. And you slip it behind that, the belt, in between the belt and the black strap. And then people will either affix it to a lane line if they're in a lane lined pool. And what is really nice about that is you can take that tether behind you and almost form a picture like a wide V behind you and have yourself pulled almost up to the lane line. You don't take up any move. We don't move when we fluid run. So you can share the lane line with a swimmer, which is really nice. You don't take up much space. You're just sitting in one place, right? Yeah. People with private pools, they like it. They'll often affix it to a ladder or a flagpole or something like that. And what is nice about it is we train you to not move by using equal resistance front and back. Like you're using equal force on the front and the back swing of your leg and the front and the back swing of your arm, and you're engaging your core and you're upright. You shouldn't move. You don't, people that have done it for a while are very good at not moving. But the funny thing is the second you close your eyes, like I will travel the second I close my eyes. So sometimes it's nice. That tether, you can just close your eyes if you want to just visualize you're running outside or just get in the moment and you don't go anywhere. So, and actually when we run group classes here in Chicago and everyone is tethered. So we do it in lane line pools, picture 4 lanes and everyone is tethered in their little spot. And that way you just don't have to worry about moving, because here's the other thing. You can be really good at not moving, but if there's a jet, like a water jet that's creating a current, right? Or somebody's swimming butterfly in the lane next to you, you're going to move. So it helps to keep you in place. I always encourage people to at least try it without the tether and see if you can stay in place, because that means you're doing a really good job of equal symmetry of your muscles, how you're using them, you're using your core and you're upright. But so the tether is optional, but people like it. They like to be able to tether themselves to something.
Okay, I'm glad you clarified that, because I've seen the tethers that hook up to harnesses for actual swimmers who train in small places.
Yes.
So they've got it. Basically, that's their resistance.
Yeah.
Because then they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So they're working.
And it is kind of fun. You can play with it too. Like sometimes if you want to run and pull on that tether and create even more of a challenge. Like sometimes in our group classes, I say, all right, everyone, try to run towards me. And imagine you're running with a parachute behind you. We do things like that. Or in class, we'll do hill work where they lean forward and the tether holds them in place. So it can come in handy, but it's not necessary.
Wow. I
did fluid running this morning in a diving well at my local pool. And, I generally don't tether when I do my workouts.
Yeah. Okay. So summer's coming.
Yeah.
Can this be done like in a lake if somebody wanted to?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We've got people do it in oceans, lakes, rivers. As a matter of fact, it's so funny over the winter. Well, as the weather starts getting colder, we have a private Facebook group and we have so many people that buy wetsuits to continue to do it and do it in lakes and things like that in wetsuits. Funny. It's like, when the weather gets cold, but it can be done anywhere. The headphones, Not sure how they do in salt water. I'd have to check that, but certainly in lakes.
Now, how about, I understand there's a different buoyancy in salt water. Does that affect?
Yeah. You can almost do it without. I've toyed with that. We almost don't need the belt because of the buoyancy of it. Anytime I'm in salt water, I'll just goof around and I'll just start running, when I get a little bit deeper, and I'm like, oh, you don't need a belt. So kind of nice. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
You would just need to be able to hear, so for example, if you had a boat with a Bluetooth speaker, say, you could put the Bluetooth speaker at the bow of the boat and hit play, and you could hop in the water and do the workout.
All sorts of alternatives.
Yeah.
Okay. Perhaps the basic question I maybe should have asked at the very beginning, do you need to know how to swim?
So I always have to be very careful how I answer that question. You don't need to be a runner or a swimmer. Now, when I say swimmer, meaning you don't need to be somebody that can hop in the pool and swim 60 lengths. It is done in the deep water. So we don't ever want somebody going into the deep water that is incapable of if something happened, if the belt got loose and couldn't make it to the side of the pool. So a clarification on that. You don't need to be a swimmer. This is not a swimming workout, but we don't want people in the deep water that are frightened by the deep water, that wouldn't be able to get to the side if something happened, if that makes sense. Yeah. Or certainly if always be where it's lifeguarded or with somebody or something like that, if you're someone that's not comfortable in the deep water. But we have to be careful how we word that, because people think, they'll say, oh, I'm not a swimmer. I'm like, well, you don't have to be a swimmer, quote unquote swimmer. You don't have to be a lap swimmer to do this. There's no swimming involved. People will often say, oh, I'll have people say, how's your swim company doing? I'm like, it's not swimming. The only thing that's similar is that it's done in the water, but where swimming obviously is horizontal, right? Yeah. And that's more of an arm workout. This is vertical, and it's really more of a leg workout. So
I guess it's the old story. If you fall off the dock into deep water, can you save yourself?
Exactly. That's how we want to make sure that anyone that's in the deep water is capable of that.
Okay. So we've talked a lot about just recuperation, that sort of thing. For an athlete, like an actual athlete, like most of our audience are not athletes, but for an actual athlete, then this is like a really good alternative to whatever they're doing. I literally don't understand why they're all not doing it, because there were so many studies done in the 90s. I wish I could get a fresh one out there, but they kind of tested it out. So it's hard to get someone to, pay for it and do a study when they already proved it out. They did a couple of studies, but one in particular I often refer to, and it's on our website, that they took in a group of, it was 6 elite male runners, 12 of them. And 6 of them they put in the water, and they did the same workouts as the land group. So they did the same distance and the same heart rate and all this kind of stuff. And so for 6 weeks later, at the end of it, they did all, the pre-test, and they did the test at the end. And the elite males that were in the water the whole time lost nothing, meaning they did VO2 max testing. They did run speed. They did a 2-mile run speed land test. Didn't lose a thing. So it actually shows that you can go 6 weeks, right? So it shows that it has the ability to keep you in peak physical shape. So why a runner wouldn't, replicate 1 or 2 or take 1 or 2 days off of land and do it in the water, so to save the, the wear and tear and the overuse. I mean, most of the injuries that athletes get are overuse injuries, right? Not only that, but when you're in the deep water and you're working out, I kind of mentioned this, it actually has a healing effect. So, a runner, an elite runner, for example, who just did their crazy track workout the day before, why they're not all hopping in the water for their workout the next day to not only flush out all the lactic acid and the toxins and the soreness and the inflammation, but also, get their next day run in all at the same time without the wear and tear. So there are some well-known coaches that are known for, having the runners do up to 30% of their runs in the water. I always say it's the smart ones. Having seen so many success stories, we just had a woman who ran the Boston Marathon. The Boston was deferred because of COVID, but so they ran it in the fall, and then they did it again in the normal time, which just happened in April. But last fall, she was injured, and she's actually one of our fluid running instructors, but she's a very good runner. She logged all of her training for 18 weeks. 18 weeks is a fairly typical training cycle. And in 18 weeks, she averaged 3 miles a week on land. The rest she did fluid running. And she was only off her best time ever at Boston by 1 minute. And then again, she just ran it in April, and she still
she wasn't injured, but she still decided to do most of it in the water. She averaged 8 miles a week on land. Now, mind you, a normal training plan has you running anywhere from 30 to 50 a week. And she did 8 miles a week, and she got her best time, her PR, as runners call it, by 10 minutes at Boston, which is a very hilly course, by the way. So she took 10 minutes off her best time at the Boston Marathon, only running 8 miles a week. The rest was in the water. It's like magical. I truly don't understand why more, especially athletes, aren't doing it, because it's a way to, reduce injury, again, flush all that information. But it's also all that extra strength work you get while you're in the water. Great hip flexor work, great core, arms. It's great for everyone, but really the athletes should be doing it more for sure.
Last fall, I interviewed a woman she's a senior athlete, and she came to running sort of later in her life.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking this would make her even, and she's always got medals around her neck as she is. So I'm just thinking I'm going to have to send her this episode, and she'll be even more fit, fast, and fabulous. So.
Yeah. Have her go to our website. There's a tab that says who's it for, and then have her go to the athlete tab, and there's all sorts of success story. We highlight a woman who did fluid running when she was recovering from her injuries, and she ended up she made the finals of the Olympic trials last year I believe it was in the 5,000. So, wow. Yeah.
And I guess, you look at the para athletes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We actually just had a guy post on his Instagram account who recently lost his leg from the knee down and got his blade. And he started fluid running when he was suffering from lymphedema, and then eventually had to have his leg amputated. And he posted how his blade broke, and the only thing he was able to do was fluid running. And he was so excited that he was still able to do it, and posted that he just did his first triathlon. And I was so excited. That was the first, amputee that we knew of that was sharing about how it helped him, which was wonderful.
Jeepers, you're going to be queen of the world.
I don't know about that, but
okay, I was on
a lot more people.
Yeah, well, that's the important part. I was on your website. I was listening to some of the videos and stuff. You were talking about cadence and intensity, so I'm hoping you'll address those. And then you talked about percentages. Now, how do you measure percentage?
Yeah, right. So a couple of things. So cadence, that is definitely a runner term, but cadence is basically the speed with which kind of you're turning your legs over. So I often will count, I'll say like, find your cadence, meaning like how fast are you moving your legs? And then that'll kind of help you figure out what intensity you're working at. So sometimes I'll be like, so example, your foot's going back and forth. I'll say like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That's your cadence. Okay. And then if we're sprinting, all right, we're picking it up. We're going to go to a 90% effort. Ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So that's what cadence is. It's the speed with which you're turning your feet over. And intensity is kind of the same thing. The cadence is more like kind of like a metronome, meaning like boom, boom, boom. That's the beat, if you will, of what you're turning your feet over. Where intensity, again, that's my line. 0 is lying on a couch, 10 is being chased by a cheetah. So we'll always say, we'll start warming up at a 5 or a 6, and then we want you to get to that 7.5 to 8 where you're working, and that's going to put you in your aerobic zone. We go to that 100% for very short sprints, all out intensity, effort level of 100%. I highly encourage it, especially the athletes, but really it's funny to watch how many more and more people, women, I see wearing their heart rate monitors, because that's the best indicator of your intensity, right? So, but a lot of people don't wear them. So you can just go by exertion effort, kind of like the talk test. So sometimes I'll say when I'm teaching a class, like, I'm running, and when I go running with my friends, we talk, but I kind of talk like this, right? So if you can, sing happy birthday or whatever, say the pledge of allegiance, whatever it is, then you're probably not in your aerobic zone. So sometimes that breathiness is a good example. Like, am I in my aerobic zone? Am I working hard enough that I'm kind of breathy while I'm doing my workout? So that gives you some idea of intensity. And again, heart rate is the best, where, if you know what your standard way to determine your max heart rate is 220 minus your age. And then you would take percentages of that, like, 60% or 70% or 80%. And then that's where heart rate monitors are nice. You could kind of just glance at your watch. And for me, I always try to stay above 130 is my number. I just try to stay above that. And interesting part of that heart rate is that your heart rate, because as I was explaining, your heart pumps out more blood slower, your heart rate is going to look lower in the water. So you actually have to add 10 to 15 beats to whatever number you're seeing. So for example, if I looked at my watch and I see 130, I know my heart rate is actually more like 140. That's how I know I'm actually more like a 140. And we'll do heart rate checks during our classes where I'll say, okay, we'll finish a set, like a sprint set, and say, okay, everyone find their heart rate, start counting now. And then we'll count for just 6 seconds. And then, so you get that number. So in 6 seconds, let's say you get a 12. I'll say, okay, add a 0 plus 10. So if you got 12, it's actually 130. And then in the higher zones, you add 15 beats. So say you got a 150, you actually add 15 beats and it's 165. And we have to do those heart rate checks very quickly because that hydrostatic pressure, because that water is pushing that blood up to your heart for you, if you will, your heart rate drops really quickly, which is really great. It's also another great benefit, again, especially with the athlete, is how quickly your heart rate will come down because the water pushes the blood up to your heart for you. Normally, an athlete runs a really hard, track set or something, and they're dying, trying to catch the breath and everything because, the blood is all into the extremities, right? And they're trying to get that blood back up to their heart. Well, in the water, it pushes it up for you, and heart rates plummet. In like 1 minute, you'll go from 150 down to, 110. Which is great, very quick recovery. So when we do our workouts, our rests tend to be relatively short because heart rates drop so quickly during the rest time. It's kind of fascinating. There's so much the physiological things that are happening in the deep water is really cool. I always tell people, go to the bathroom before you do a deep water running class, because that's actually physiological effect I think it's called hydrodiuresis or something like that, but it actually makes you excrete more urine, and then you actually do have to go to the bathroom more. So we actually, in our classes, I put a break in the middle of our live classes mainly so people can get to the side of the pool to get their water bottle, right? In a typical fitness class, you can often have your water close by, but I will say there's usually 2 or 3 people that hop out because they have to go to the bathroom and then they come back. So we always remind people, make sure you hydrate really well, because not only are you sweating, you don't feel it. I said any perspiration you're feeling on your face is actually happening all over your body. You just can't feel it because the water just kind of whisks it away. And then you get that diuretic effect. So we always encourage people to make sure they drink, before, during, and after class.
I keep on defaulting to athletics because I sort of have this little
secret
passion. But just to bring it even back to anything that boomer women want to do, the non-athlete, she's slowed down now, she's a grandma, whatever.
Yeah.
And I got to be careful because I know some super fit grandmas.
Yeah.
But there's probably nothing that she can do on land for more or harder that isn't going to tax part of her system.
Right.
Whereas in the water,
she
can do more harder as time goes by. And again, I think the genius here is the fact that it's non-impact. And you've got that flotation plus the resistance.
Yeah. And we've had some really exciting stories too of older people who have gone on to run like their first 5K, but they did a lot of it in the water where they got strong, they got the cardiovascular, they did some running on land too, but they say if it weren't for fluid running, they never would have made it because their body couldn't have handled all of the, whatever it was, even 3 days a week of pounding, getting ready for even a 5K. So, we've had some grandmas out there that have run a land race after, doing a lot of it in the water to get themselves strong enough.
So now your recordings, your training recordings,
mm-hmm.
you or somebody, one of your coaches is talking through that, are they?
Constantly, because it's audio. I mean, there's music in the background. Yeah. So I'll give you an example. Like a set would be, and I had done most of them, and now we're bringing in new coaches, which is really exciting, instructors. But it'd be like, okay, fluid runners, this is Jennifer. I'm going to give you a couple minutes to get ready. All right, let's just get that perfect fluid running form. Let's get that T position, arms to the side. Okay, let's take it to a run. All right, runners. And I always refer to everyone as runners, and I hear everyone loves it. Who doesn't want to be called a runner? Okay, runners. In 5 seconds, we're going to take it to a 30-second sprint. This one is at 100% effort. If you can, in 3, 2, 1. Okay, running. Okay. Okay. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Hold on to your form. Head high, chin in, shoulders back. You got it. You got it. 3, 2, 1. Jog it out. Catch your breath. Okay. Next set. We're taking it to long stride cross country. Remember, that's that long stride. Arms are long, straight by your side. Hands in a gentle fist. Micro bend in the elbow. Feet are flexed. Scissor swing with those legs. 3, 2, 1. Open it up. Big stride cross country. Give that glute a squeeze on the pull back, shoulders back. So the whole workouts are like that. There's music playing, but it's your coach cueing you on time, on form, on intensity, muscle groups, things like that.
Okay, I got to tell our listeners because they can't see you.
Right?
Jennifer was not reading that. This is part of being an instructor, is just or a coach, whatever. Is you know what you do and you know the format. Oh, that's great. Just a personal anecdote is I was never a runner. I would train till the cows came home. I'd get out running, and I was so bored and that was the reason for my question is you're talking through, because I was so bored that I would even think, oh, maybe I should just go home and do the ironing. And it's who wants to do the ironing? But I was so bored. Whereas to have someone talking in your ear with maybe a bit of background music, when my brother came to visit, I'd run with him, no problem at all, because I had someone to talk to.
Right. Well, so anyone that actually knows of aqua jogging, they will say it's worse than watching paint dry, or it's worse than the treadmill. But that's what makes fluid running so special and we've got all these different coaches. We've got all these different kinds of, we have one which is a guided 10K run, right? So we say, all right, I say, okay, runners, we're getting ready. We'll come to the start line. We're going at a 9-minute mile. So meaning every 9 minutes, we're going to call out a mile. Clearly, some people are going to be running faster. Some are going to be running slower, but we're going with a 9-minute mile. So we'll be like, all right, runners, here comes. All right. See that woman in the pink shirt? We're going to pass her. Pick it up. You got it. Good job. Okay. You see that big number 2? You see that number 2 coming up at a 3, 2, 1. Woo! You just crossed mile number 2. I'm going to give you a quote to motivate you for mile number 3, and then they'll throw out a quote, say something like, if it was easy, everyone would do it. And then just, okay, you got a headwind coming and, person's holding up this sign and meanwhile music's playing. So even a 10K where you're just running the whole time, the coach is cheering you on, giving you quotes, telling you things to do, things to keep you motivated. So
I just want to order your audios just to hear you.
Well, this is so funny. Again, in this private Facebook group, we have people now that will put meant for fluid running on, and they'll do they're elliptical to it, and then so just when I say pick it up, or something, they just said they love having me in their ear. I mean, me, because I had done the majority of the workouts at this point. Now we have new ones, but we've had people say, "Can you create these for just land running?" To your point, to have someone in your ear coaching you along, and keeping you motivated, and don't pull back now, not yet. You got 20 more seconds. Hang in there with me. You got it. I'm right here with you. Finish strong. Those kind of things that do help to keep you motivated.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to take it over to the other extreme now. Is there anybody who shouldn't do fluid running?
Is there anyone that shouldn't do fluid running? Gosh, we've had so many different ailments and injuries.
So nothing that comes quickly to mind. That's
probably somebody with a severe heart condition, I would say, probably shouldn't be doing fluid running. So clearance with anything, but probably a severe heart condition. I would probably have to want to talk to the doctor first. So,
like that fellow I met one time who would always walk away and go, he's holding his chest. Yeah. And he'd had open heart surgery just literally a few days before.
Right.
And I guess that's the other thing is any open wounds.
Open wounds, always right. Anything post-surgical, open wounds, we always say, things like that.
Okay. No, that's good. Okay, what haven't we talked about that you think boomers, keep with boomers here, that boomers should know or think about if they're thinking that this sounds very interesting?
There's so many benefits. So other benefits, just to, keep in mind why it's such a great workout. Again, cardiovascular, we talked about the strength. It's great for your posture. We tend to kind of punch over more as we get older, but it's great for posture. It's great for strength. It's great for mental health. And I say that because all exercise is good for mental health. We know that the endorphins, but you said you taught water, but there's something about being water. They've done these studies that there's a happiness feel good thing that happens in the water. That I think it reminds us of being kids a little bit in the water. We were in the womb, born in water. So there's a feel good thing. So it's really good for your mental health, lowering blood pressure. And then the other thing I think is a really great benefit, especially for boomers and seniors, is the safety of it. There's no falling risk. There's no, the water, the temperature is always kind of the same. You're not worrying about going out in the freezing cold or overheating in the heat. It's very safe when you're in the water. Again, I keep using that word floating. You got a belt around your waist, you're floating in the water, you're completely supported. So it's a great, safe workout. You don't have to worry about in darkness or weather conditions, tripping, falling, losing your balance, any of those kinds of things. And even, I'm going to throw in even the germy part, which we're all kind of aware of with COVID and things like that. If you're in a pool, it's chlorinated and safe. And I know that's a big concern. And it's there's studies that show that, even the COVID virus is killed within seconds of being exposed to chlorine. So that's another bonus. It's safe in that regard too.
Well, and as a grandmother, I will add that, one of the biggest upsetting things that happen in a grandma's life is the fact that she has become too weak to lift a grandchild. Yes. And you were talking about like the arms and the backs and stuff like that, as well as the legs. It's right. Just, to be able to still pick up a little baby and cuddle them safely.
I think the older we get, the more we care about just some of those like really basic things, right? Unload your groceries and be able to pick up your grandchildren and, go for a walk or whatever the case is. And this is an all over body, complete strengthening body workout. I've had people, even my husband told me that when I first started, he said how much my posture improved, an hour of upright, shoulders back, my cues are head high, chin in, shoulders back, belly to spine, like I cue all the time. But when you are holding that locked position, man, you are just strengthening that body and strengthening all the muscles that support your spine and keep you strong and upright and healthy and allow you to do all those really basic functional things we need to do in life to keep us happy.
Well, and as the senior fitness instructor, I get them into the position, the alignments and everything. And then I go, deportment, ladies, deportment. Because that's what we all grew up with.
Yeah,
put the book on your head.
Right. Yes.
Oh, dear. Okay. So your website is pretty much one-stop shopping. What do people find there?
Yeah. So it's Fluid Running, fluidrunning.com. So in terms of products, what you can buy on Fluid Running, you can buy the full system. And that's the one we kind of discussed that comes with the instructional videos, that comes with the flotation belt, Bluetooth waterproof headphones, the tether we talked about, and then that comes with 4 workouts. We've had people that said, I already have a belt, or I'm going to listen to it on my Bluetooth speaker, or I have headphones. So then we have what's called the digital only. So that's just the instructional videos and the workouts. Okay. And then in terms of, if someone just wanted for some reason, just a belt, we sell a belt that's under components, or we sell headphones. And I do want to mention, I hope to have had it out by now, but in about, I'm going to say with 2 weeks, in 2 weeks, what is the date here? June 8th. Or 9th.
This won't go live for a while.
We're going to have a shallow water program coming out, which I know is going to be a lot of, especially seniors and boomers are going to like that idea. There are people that even if they are capable of being in the deep water, they don't like it. Sometimes they don't like to get their hair wet, or they don't have access, and which is really the main reason we created is so many people reach out to say, my pool only goes to 5 feet, 4 feet. So excited to be coming out with that. So it's going to be a shallow water program. Same thing. The workouts are going to be coached by me and the other instructors, and it's going to say things like, all right, we're running, take it to high knees for 15 seconds, high knees, high knees, high knees. Okay, now we're going to take it to cross country. And so it's a lot of the same motions that we did in the deep water, translated to shallow, but the same format with the coaching, the music. We use a little more of the side of the pool, do some strengthening things like, tricep dips and push-ups and flutter kicking from the wall. So that's coming too. Hopefully in a couple of weeks, hopefully by the end of June, 2022. This year, we'll have our shallow water program also available. Excited about that.
Okay. And seeing as how you obviously know every one of your workouts off by heart.
Yeah.
Which one do you recommend for a beginner?
Well, for the beginner, I would definitely say that, it comes with a package, and the one is the introductory is the first one. But then there's 2 others that are in that. And I still have people saying, I really want more of an introductory workout. Under the website, you'll see workouts, and they're all listed. I think there's over 20 workouts now. All the ones that are a number 1, meaning that's like more of a beginner, if you will, easier, and then 2 and 3. So there's one that's called like One for the Road. That's a nice kind of easy first one. If you wanted to do the introductory and not jump to the other 2, and I believe those are level 2 workouts that are part of the package you get. All the ones that are labeled 1 are an easier workout. Like One for the Road is a good one to start with after the introductory workout, because that's the one where all the very heavy reminders and cueing from the video are in that workout.
Okay. And you ship internationally?
We do. We ship UK, all through the EU, Australia, and Canada right now, and we continue to expand. But right now we do ship to all of those places.
Okay. And the website again is?
www.fluidrunning.com. And then on Instagram @fluidrunning, Facebook @fluidrunning, and Twitter @fluidrunning.
Okay.
And then any questions, info@fluidrunning.com. We always respond within 24 hours if somebody had a question.
Good. Okay. I always put links in the show notes. So those will be there. That's great. Listeners, if you have comments on today's show, please talk to us. If you're listening at twoboomerwomen.com, scroll to the bottom of the page and leave comments there. We can be found at Apple or Stitcher and now on Samsung Free. That's something new. Most places a person will listen to podcasts, we're there. Feel free to leave comments and leave stars and reviews. They help us grow. Before you go, hit the subscribe or follow button and you'll be notified about future interviews with more of my great guests. And share this episode with a few friends who might benefit from fluid running. We didn't talk about that, Jennifer. If a few people, you mentioned groups, if a few people did want to do this together, as long as they have their own system, they can go together and party in the pool.
And we do have people that enjoy doing it together. Yep, absolutely.
Okay, there you go, party in the pool. Yeah. There we go. So it's still a social workout. If you want to be a guest on podcast or know someone who would be a great guest, there's an application form at the website too. Jennifer Conroyd, thank you so much for being my guest today. I was really curious. I was enthusiastic, and this is just so cool.
Oh,
this is great.
You. Thank you for having me. It's fun that you kind of have the aquatic background so you can relate to what I do.
Boomer Fitness will never be the same.
I love it.
Have a great rest of week.
Thank you. You too.